Hello, friends. You might have noticed that the music today is different. That's because today and tomorrow are the two saddest days of the Christian calendar. Today is Good Friday. I'd love for you to go and find a cross to hold as we do our time together. This is my cross that I'm holding. It's a crucifix that I bought at an Anglican monastery in Santa Barbara. And I hold it a lot when I pray, but today I'm going to be holding it as we discuss Jesus's death. And I'd like to begin with this short reading from Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, by night, and am not silent. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one who can help. But you, O Lord, are not far off. O my strength, come quickly to help me. The word of the Lord. So friends, if you don't have a cross with you, go ahead and go find it. And when you get back, we'll talk about why I started with Psalm 22. All right, welcome back, friends. Like I said, I hope you found your cross to hold while we talk about Jesus' death. I started with Psalm 22 today because that psalm is quoted by Jesus while he is dying. So yesterday we talked about Maundy Thursday when Jesus had dinner with his friends. And there were some gross moments, there were some weird moments. But Jesus was talking about that he was going to die. And sure enough, that evening, he was betrayed by his friend Judas, and Judas handed him over to soldiers. And Jesus was taken, and on Friday, some really sad, horrible things happened to Jesus. They mocked him. They called him names. They made fun of him. They put a crown of thorns on his head and were like, oh, you're a king, you're a king, you're a king. And they were mocking him and making fun of him. They beat him. And I don't like to think of that. And you probably don't like to think of that either. But that's the story. And we need to tell the story truthfully. They beat him and he bled. He went on trial. And even though he had done nothing wrong, and even though Pontius Pilate, the person who was the judge of this trial, even though he knew that the people who were making accusations against Jesus, even though he knew they were lying, when the people shouted that they wanted Jesus to be crucified, Pontius Pilate handed Jesus over for just that. And so Jesus carried the beam of his cross through Jerusalem. Just days before, Jesus had come in riding on a donkey and they had shouted, Hosanna. And now people were shouting names at him, cruel things. And when he got to a hill called Golgotha, there they nailed him to the cross with nails through his hands and nails through his feet, with two people one person on either side, thieves, robbers, people who actually had committed crimes. And one of them mocked Jesus, and the other rebuked him and said, "Don't you know who this man is?" And Jesus told that man, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He was in agony. And he quoted that psalm that I read at the beginning. And in the afternoon of that Friday, Jesus died. Friends, every year this story brings me to tears. Jesus came for the world, for us. God became flesh. God with flesh and bones and blood and eyelashes, just like us. And he willingly died. His mother was there. A couple of his friends were there. And they asked to take his body down so that they might prepare him and bury him before the Sabbath. And so the soldiers needed to make sure that Jesus really was dead. And so they poked his body with a spear, and out flowed his blood, and it had already separated into the water and into the blood, which meant he really was dead, fully dead. And they took down his body, and a man named Joseph of Arimathea offered up his land for a tomb for Jesus. And they wrapped his body up and they laid him in the tomb. And they rolled a huge stone up against the tomb. And the Romans, they were afraid that people might come and steal Jesus's body because Jesus had told people that he was going to raise from the dead. And so the Romans thought someone would come and steal his body and make it look like he had raised from the dead. And so they put guards at the tomb. And that night, Jesus's friends hid. They were afraid. They didn't want people to know that they had been this man's friend because now he was dead. The person they thought had come to save them, to rescue them, was dead. And so as I hold my cross, I get emotional because today we sit in that story, and tomorrow we will sit in it again. Because we need to remember that Jesus really did die. And so why do we call this day good when it's the day that Jesus died? What do you think? I know some of you are saying it. We call this day good because we know what happens on the third day. We know what happens on Sunday. This day truly is good, but we get to be sad. We get to be horrified at what Jesus went through. But know, friends, know this. Sunday is coming, and we will be glad. And for the first time, we'll be glad not near each other, and we'll have to celebrate in our own homes, but we still get to rejoice. So tomorrow is Holy Saturday, and we will spend some time thinking about what it was like that day in between his death and his resurrection. Today, I want you to think about this, talk about this story with the people in your home. Talk about what it means to you, what it means to them. And then come back and join me tomorrow for Holy Saturday. And keep your eyes on that cross. Friends, I love you so much. Thank you for being sad with me today. And I will see you tomorrow on Holy Saturday.